welcome to Shannon Confidential. I'm Shannon, your host. Shannon Confidential is a conversation about life, love, and everything in between. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, man, woman, child, big, small, your income, color of your skin. We are all in this world together, and everything we go through, we all go through it together. We're all the same in so many ways. And that's what this podcast is about, bringing us all together to talk about things that we all experience. And today, we are talking about things that go bump in the night. All right, so we all have heard friends, or maybe even some of us have our own stories of ghosts and goblins and past family members that we've seen in the driveway, or that little spooky thing we see off to the distance at our peripheral vision, and then you turn and look and it's not there. That's what I'm talking about. If you have one of those stories, I really want to hear from you. Email me. Tell me all about it. I can't take this stuff in enough. So much so, it freaks the heck out of me, but I have to hear the stories. I have to watch the scary movies. It'll keep me up for nights. I won't be able to sleep. Poor Matthew has to deal with it. I get the heebie-jeebies, the spookies, everything you want to call it, but I take it all in. But I really like the ones that are about hauntings, kind of like Annabelle or The Conjuring or The Exorcist. Those terrify me, and that's why I love them. So the spooky ghost stories of people's experiences, I find so intriguing, and it just scares me. So I thought today I'm going to talk about something that happened to me. Now, there was a time in my life where, let's just say, things weren't great. It was a high stressful time, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of animosity going on. And there was just that negative energy in the house. It surrounded me. I felt like I had this dark black cloud. No matter what I did, I couldn't get away with it or away from it. I was just surrounded by tons and tons of negative energy. And I was laying in my bed one day, and I looked up in the corner of my room, and the lights were on. It was getting darker because, of course, these things always happen at night, at least for me anyhow. And I looked up in the corner, and there was this really odd, because it didn't really have a shape, it was this dark, shadowy, misty thing. And what was odd about it is, when you have a shadow in your room, it's either a light shade reflecting off or something reflecting off your TV. But if you kind of look around, you get the gist of what's causing that shadow. Well, this happened to be an instant where that shadow just didn't have a shape. It was more like a blob. It wasn't moving, but it just was an unformed shadow, and it just seemed darker than a shadow. It wasn't that grayish, shadowy, thing. It was just solid black, and shadows usually range from light to dark, you know what I'm saying? But this was just black, and it didn't have a shape. Yet, somehow, the second I looked at it, I had this really eerie, negative feeling like it was evil. And I'm not one of those hypochondriac kind of people, but it truly was the feeling that came over when I looked at it. And even though it didn't have a face, it didn't have a shape, it didn't resemble anything but a blobby, shadowy, misty thing, I felt like it was looking at me. Like somehow it was looking down at me. And you're laying in bed and I'm kind of going like this, like it's still there. Oh yeah, you're still there. Like I didn't want to make eye contact with it. It was really strange. And I remember there was another person who was in the room at the time, and I said, what do you think's causing that shadow? I didn't want to just assume it was like some kind of ghost or whatever, because it sounds a little stupid. So I just, where is that shadow coming from? And the person looked up and said, there's nothing up there. So it was completely unseen by someone else also in the room. And this was the first time I had noticed it. And it was just there. I turned lights on and off. I couldn't make it go away, but yet I really didn't want to look right at it either. So this happened several times, not every night in a row, and maybe a couple times it actually would like move down the wall, but it only stayed on my side of the room, and I just felt like it was, I don't want to say after me, but I was the energy. Yes. It was attaching to whatever was going on in my life right then. And which, of course, if you've seen enough movies, it really scares you. So then my son, who was much younger at the time, he came into my room one night and it was back in the corner, the same place I saw it the first time. And of course, I don't want to scare my child and say, hey, do you see that black ghost in the corner of the room? So I just said, hey, Jake, that's my son's name, what do you think that is up there? Can you help me? I'm trying to figure out what that shadow is. And he looked up And he goes, where? And I said, right there in the corner of the room. And he's like, where? And of course, he's just looking at me going, where? And obviously at that point, I realized he doesn't see it either. So now there's two people that don't see it. I see it. So I'm just going to go with that. And I was like, oh, don't worry, I'll figure it out. And I kind of just blew it off. And this is where it really got scary. I was in bed, sleeping. And people refer to this as night terrors. Now, night terrors are when you feel like you're awake. You feel like your eyes are open. You can even tell yourself, I'm awake right now. I'm not sleeping, but my body thinks I'm sleeping, but I'm not sleeping, and I can see everything going on. It's almost like your body's paralyzed and you're wide awake. So I guess that's what it was. Middle of the night. And out of nowhere, I just opened my eyes. I just knew something was looking at me. And at the foot of my bed, that black mist was now at the foot of my bed, right directly in front of me at the foot of my bed. And even though it had no face, it had no shape, it did not look like a body, it was there. What didn't look like it was floating, it just looked like more horizontal than blobby, but still no formation to it whatsoever. And I remember like looking down my bed, looking at it like, go away, just close your eyes, try to go to sleep. And I could not. Of course, then you kind of peek and you're looking and you're like, got your sheets, because you're terrified.
That's true.
And out of nowhere, this mist shot from the end of my bed, like not even in a second, straight to right next to my face. And it was like right here. So much so I couldn't even turn my head. I was terrified. And kind of when you're having like a bad dream, and you're yelling in your dream, but anybody outside your dream just hears, whoa. That's basically what I probably sounded like. I was screaming, and I was screaming to myself, wake up, it's coming for you, wake up. And I woke up, and it was gone. And my heart was racing, and I was just like, oh my God, it's the devil, it's something awful. It just felt so negative. I just don't know how else to describe that. And this happened several times over a period of time, not every night in a row, over a period of time. And it was terrifying to me, to the point where there were some nights I was just afraid of going to sleep, because I just didn't know if it was going to be there when I opened my eyes when I was sleeping. And just the flash that it ended up right next to me was just so terrifying. And then one day I go into my daughter's room, Taylor, and she too was much younger at the time, elementary school. And I'm cleaning up her room because, let me tell you, she was Miss Piggy. She had stuff everywhere. But I noticed on all four corners of her bed, there were rosary beads. Now, if you knew my daughter back then, that might not be so weird. She was very creative and had a fabulous imagination. She's very artistic. She could have been a writer in elementary school. She just had that brain that just worked well beyond her years. So she has these 4 rosary beads, and I don't want to say something to her that's going to either make her feel like her decorating was not right or scare her. So one of the sets of rosary beads was from her communion, and so I used that as my way to approach this. And I said, those are your rosary beads from your communion. Those are a gift from your great-grandmother. Let's put those back with your Bible. I'll get you a different pair. We want to save those in case you want to give them to your daughter one day. And she was like, no, don't take them off my bed. They have to be on my bed. And that's when I knew something's going on in here too. And so I said to her, I said, why? And she goes, because in the corner of my room, there is this black mist, and I don't know what it is, but I know it's looking at me, and it scares me. And I realized, holy me, she's getting this too. And I thought, wow, we are the only 2 people in the house that have this vision, and I never said a word to her. And I made a point not to talk about it in front of my kids. I didn't want to influence them in any way or scare them or give them nightmares. I kept it very, very much to myself. So for her to say that, it was very real to me what she was seeing. And when my life took a turn for the better and that negative energy was gone, so was the black mist. It never came back for me. It never came back for my daughter. And to this day, I am certain that it attached itself to all of that darkness and negative energy and evilness that was being created in that house. And it was, I don't know if it's a portal, I don't know what they call those things, but I do believe something was happening there. And if you've got some insight on this, if you've had this happen, or maybe you're one of those ghost hunters and you have some information to supply me on what that was, I would love to hear from you. Email me at shannonconfidential007@gmail.com and tell me your story. If anything, just tell me your experience, or you know what it's called. I have looked it up. I know there's an ectomist, there's orbs, there's everything, but everything I've read about this that goes, what?
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist. It's more demonic, if I can say that without like, don't come into my house. This is a positive place. But at a poltergeist, not to mention a poltergeist, and my father, he or one of his family members, they had a ghost, which is more like a poltergeist, and the ghost would throw pennies from the second floor down. Now, poltergeist, you've seen the movie. We've all seen the movie. If you haven't, watch it. You know, they move things around. They throw things. They're more active. They're not necessarily negative. You know, they're just trying to. They're stuck. They're stuck. So I know what a poltergeist is, but this just felt bad. So I would love to hear from you. And again, my segment on confidential questions. If you want to send me your questions, concerns, your stories, you have some answers for me, you can send them to me at shannonconfidential007@gmail.com. I'd love to hear anything you have to say about this. And that's my things that go bump in the night experience. Thanks. Thinking about things that go bump in the night, it made me think of a song of one of my favorite country singers, Eric Church. He has a song it's called Monsters, and one of the lines in the song, so I'll call this my Be Kind quote of the day, because I've learned that the monsters ain't the ones beneath the bed. That can go so many different ways in your life. Just remember that. Sometimes they're up in the ceiling, sometimes they're right in front of you, and sometimes they look like people. But either way, they're not the ones underneath the bed. And this has now become one of my favorite little segments. It's called My Style Secrets. And these are little things that I use or my friends use, and it works. It's a product, it's a procedure, it's a book, I don't know, whatever it needs to be. It's a secret that we want to share and pay forward. Now this one, again, they're not sponsored. These are just things we want to offer to the viewers, the people out there, make them feel good. And my friend Lacey actually is the one who brought this one to my attention. She, you know, as we get older, or for whatever reason, our eyebrows seem to just get thinner or lighter or disappear, or we pluck the heck out of them and then they're gone. And there's all different ways. There's powder, there's this and that. But she happened to have her eyebrows enhanced one day when she was walking towards me. And I thought, wow, gosh, your eyes are popping. And she was saying that she used this new eyebrow gel. And I thought, well, you know what? If it makes you look good, let's help you. Maybe it's going to make other people look good and they'll appreciate it. And this is Anastasia, the eyebrow gel. This is what the box looks like. And this is what the little tube looks like. Looks like a little tiny mini mascara. And it's just an eyebrow gel. And I have to tell you, she looks fabulous. So if you're having an eyebrow issue, Anastasia eyebrow gel. As I mentioned earlier, the confidential questions is the part where I really want to hear from my followers, my listeners, my viewers, on the things that you want to hear about, things that I have discussed that you want to give your insight on. Agree with me, disagree with me, it doesn't matter. I just want to hear from you. Any ideas that you would love to hear me discuss, I'd love to cover that for you. Just email me confidential questions at shannonconfidential007@gmail.com. I would love to give you a shout out, include your name. You don't have to put your last name if you don't want. Any of your social media, I'll tag you on. Anything like that, I would just love to hear from you. And just so you know, we now have Shannon Confidential merchandise. We have pillowcases, shirts, journals, face masks. We have all this. It's white, my logo in black. And it's available to you guys now, and I'm going to look. It's on Redbubble, redbubble.com for my merchandise. Order away. If you do order anything, please take a picture with it. I would love to see it. I would love to see my logo out there. You know, I'm just kind of proud of myself. So again, redbubble.com for any of the Shannon Confidential merchandise. Thank you very much. And of course, I would love, love, love to have you follow me My Facebook is at Shannon Confidential. My Instagram is at Shannon_confidential. Twitter is at ShannonConfide7. YouTube, Shannon Confidential. And of course, my email, ShannonConfidential007@gmail.com. Thank you very much, and I will see all of you next week.